You wake up one morning, get ready for work or school, grab your bag, and reach for your MacBook, only to realize that it isn't there. At first, you might think you simply left it somewhere. You check your desk, you check your bed, you check the living room, you look inside your backpack. Nothing. Then you suddenly remember that you were working at a coffee shop the night before. Or maybe you left it in the office. Or maybe you brought it with you while traveling. And then that uncomfortable thought starts to sink in. What if someone stole it? For some people, losing a laptop might seem like losing an expensive piece of technology. But if you actually think about what's inside your Mac, the situation becomes much more serious. Your Mac could contain years of personal photographs, important documents, school files, work related files, tax documents, contracts, emails, messages, saved browser sessions, passwords, personal notes, financial information, access to your social media accounts, access to your email, and depending on how you've configured your devices, it could even provide a pathway into other devices and services connected to your Apple account. So, when someone steals your Mac, they're not necessarily just stealing a computer. They're potentially stealing access to a significant portion of your digital life. And that's exactly why today's video is important. Because when it comes to protecting a Mac from theft, most people think about security after something has already happened. They think, I'll deal with it if my Mac gets stolen. But by then, it may already be too late. The better approach is to prepare for when your Mac ever goes missing beforehand. And fortunately, Apple gives Mac users several built in security features that can help you do exactly that. Your Mac can be configured to help you locate if it gets lost. You can enable features designed to protect your information. You can make it significantly harder for another person to access your files. And you can secure your Apple account so that your Mac isn't simply another unsecured device connected to your digital life. The problem is that many Mac users don't know these features exist, or they know about them but have never actually checked whether they're enabled. Some people assume that because they're using Mac, everything is automatically protected. Others believe that simply having a password is enough. And some people have Find My enabled on their iPhone but don't realize that their Mac needs to be properly configured as well. That's where this video comes in. Today, we're going to take a complete look at how you can protect your Mac against theft and how you can maximize your chances of locating it if it ever goes missing. And don't worry, you're not a technical person. You don't need to understand complicated cybersecurity terminology. You don't need to install some expensive third party security application. And you don't need to be a computer expert to do this. We're going to focus on the security features already available within Mac OS or Mac operating system and your Apple account. We'll start with one of the most important features, Find My Mac. If your Mac is lost or stolen, Find My can potentially help you determine where the device is. But there's more to it than simply looking at a map. We'll also talk about the Find My network and how nearby Apple devices can potentially help locate a missing device. This is especially useful because a missing Mac may not always be connected to your personal Wi Fi or a familiar network. We'll then talk about another important security feature that works alongside Find My, the activation lock. Activation lock is designed to prevent someone else from easily taking a device associated with your Apple account and setting it up as their own. This is one of the reasons why properly configuring Find My on your Mac is so important. But locating a stolen Mac is only one part of the problem. Let's say someone manages to physically take your Mac. What happens to the files stored on it? This is incredibly important because your Mac contains more than just applications. It contains your personal and private data information. If the Mac is lost or stolen, and you want another layer of protection between your private information and whoever happens to possess the physical device, we'll also talk about something that sounds incredibly simple but is frequently overlooked. This is your Mac's login password. A strong password is one of the first barriers between a stranger and your user account, and will go beyond simply telling you to use a password. We'll talk about automatic locking and why you shouldn't leave your Mac unlocked when you step away from it. If you're sitting in a cafe, in a library, in an airport, school, workplace, or another public location and you walk away from your Mac while it's unlocked, someone could potentially access information before you even realize anything happened. That's why good security isn't just about sophisticated technology. Sometimes it's about simple habits. Lock your Mac when you walk away. Don't leave it unattended. Don't leave it visible inside a vehicle. Don't give strangers unnecessary physical access to it. And then there's your Apple account. Your Apple account is extremely important because it connects many of the services and devices within the Apple ecosystem. And your Mac is one door into your digital life. Your Apple account can be another. You don't want to spend all your time securing the first door while leaving the second one poorly protected. Imagine you've already checked your bag. You've checked your car. You've called the coffee shop. You've searched your house and your Mac is still nowhere to be found. What do you do next? Should you immediately erase it? Should you try to contact whoever has it? Or should you go to the location shown on the map? Should you change your passwords? Should you report it? There are several important things you should consider. And a laptop is replaceable. Your safety is not. Instead, use the information available through Apple's tracking features to assist the appropriate authorities. Encryption doesn't physically stop someone from stealing your laptop. A strong password doesn't prevent someone from taking the device. Think of these features as layers. The more layers you have, the better protected you are. Imagine your Mac security like the security of a house. You might have a front door, you might have a lock, you might have an alarm, you might have security cameras, you might have motion sensors, you might have a safe inside the house. None of these measures alone makes your home completely impossible to break into. But together, they provide significantly more protection than having an unlocked door. Your Mac works in a similar way. Physical security is one layer, and when these layers work together, you create a much stronger security system around your Mac. So whether you own a MacBook Air, a MacBook Pro, or another compatible Mac, this video is worth watching all the way through. Even if you think you've already configured everything correctly, I recommend checking your settings with me because security settings can change. Mac OS versions can change also. You might have purchased a new Mac. You might have signed into a different Apple account. You might have disabled a setting without realizing its importance. Or perhaps you've simply never checked. And if you're watching this video because your Mac has already been lost or stolen, don't immediately click away. The later part of this video will cover what you can do in that situation also, and what precautions you should take when dealing with a potentially stolen device. But if you still have your Mac with you right now, that's even better, because this is the perfect time to prepare. Don't wait until your Mac disappears. Don't wait until you're staring at an empty spot in your backpack. Don't wait until you realize that years of photos, documents, and important information were sitting on a device that wasn't properly secured. Take a few minutes today. Check your settings. Turn on the security features you need. Create strong passwords. Enable the appropriate tracking features. And develop good habits when using your Mac outside your home. Because the best time to protect your Mac is before you need that protection. So in this video, we're going to start from the basics and work our way through the most important security measures you can take. By the end of this guide, you'll have a much better understanding of how Apple's theft protection and tracking features work, what settings you should check, and what you should do if your Mac goes missing, and how to protect the valuable information stored inside it. So grab your Mac if it's nearby, open your Mac, and follow along. We're going to start with one of the most important features you should have enabled right now. Let us get started. Have you ever thought about what would happen if your MacBook suddenly disappeared? Maybe you left it at a computer shop or a coffee shop. Maybe it was stolen from your car. Or perhaps you simply misplaced it somewhere and can't remember where you last used it. For many of us, a Mac isn't just an expensive computer. It contains personal photos, important documents, work files, saved passwords, emails, financial information, and access to our social media and other accounts. And here's the important part. You shouldn't wait until your Mac is stolen before thinking about security. In this video, I'm going to show you practical steps you can take to protect your Mac against theft, and more importantly, how to enable Apple's built-in device tracking features so you have a better chance of locating it if it ever goes missing. We'll cover Find My Mac, location services, activation lock, and file vault. So if you're using a MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, or another Mac running a recent version of Mac OS, stay until the end. Let's get started. First part is enable Find My Mac. The first and most important thing you should do is enable Find My Mac. This is Apple's built-in tracking feature that allows you to locate your Mac using the Find My network. To check whether it's enabled, first we go ahead and open the system settings. We go ahead and open the system settings and find your Apple account and look for iCloud. Look for Find My Mac. Depending on your version of Mac OS, you may see Find My Mac listed under your iCloud settings. Make sure that it is turned on. So if we click See All here, we are able to check that Find My Mac is turned on. Alright, You may also see an option related to the Find My network. Why is this important? So Find My Mac is very, very important because it does not simply depend on your Mac having an active internet connection, but it also use nearby Apple devices to help determine the approximate location of a missing device. So, even if your Mac isn't directly connected to Wi Fi at the moment, the Find My network or Find My Mac for MacBooks may still be able to help locate it. Once Find My is enabled, you can use Apple's Find My app on another Apple device or access Find My through Apple's services to check the location of your Mac. But there's another feature working behind the scenes that makes these even more important. This is the activation lock. Activation lock is designed to help prevent someone else from using your Mac if it's lost or stolen. When Find My is enabled and your Mac is associated with your Apple account, activation lock can make it much more difficult for another person to simply erase the Mac and use it as their own. In other words, your Mac isn't just a physical object, it's connected to your Apple account. This is one of the reasons you should never disable Find My unless you have a specific reason to do so. For example, if you're selling or giving away your Mac, you should properly sign out and remove it from your account before handing it over. But if you're actively using the Mac, keep Find My enabled. And remember, Find My is not a replacement for physical security, it's a backup layer. Your first goal should always be preventing someone from getting access to your Mac in the first place. Next is to turn on location services. Location information can be important for Apple's Find My features and other location based services. If you have location services disabled, certain features may not work as expected. So, if your goal is to maximize your chances of finding a missing Mac, keeping the necessary location services enabled is a good idea. At this point, we've already been establishing three important layers: Find My Mac, location services, and activation lock. But there's still major security features you absolutely need to consider. In turning on the location services, first we go ahead and proceed to the system settings. So click on it. Next is we go to privacy and security. And here we need to turn on or toggle on the location services on your Mac or on your computer for us to have a better tracking. Location services is one added layer of security on your computer for us to be able to have more layers of security, and at the same time for us to be able to have or maximize the features of our MacBook. Imagine someone steals your Mac. You might think, okay, I can track it using Find My. That's great. But what about the files stored on the computer? This is where File Vault becomes extremely important. File Vault provides full disk encryption for your Mac's startup disk. That means the data stored in Mac is protected through encryption. To check File Vault, we first need to go to the system settings. Click on it and proceed to privacy and security. Go ahead and scroll to privacy and security part, and here you will see File Vault. We always need to make sure that File Vault is turned on, which secures our data by encrypting the contents of our MacBook and locking your screen with a password. If it's available and not already enabled, consider turning it on. Your Mac may ask you to choose how you can recover access if you forget your login password. Pay close attention to this step. Your recovery information is extremely important. Here's the key distinction. Find My helps you locate and manage a missing Mac, and File Vault helps protect the data stored on that Mac. You want both. Because even if you can't recover your Mac physically, you don't want someone easily accessing your personal information. So, for example, someone steals your computer and you wanted access or you wanted to protect the access of information on your Mac. File Vault is here, which helps you secure your data with data encryption on your Mac and locking your Mac or your screen with a password. And in this case, we're able to easily secure our files, data, and information that is stored on our computer. Now, let's talk about something simple but incredibly important: your Mac's login password. First, you go to the system settings and proceed to the lock screen. Alright, here it is. And review your settings for requiring a password after the screensaver begins or the display is turned off. You want your Mac to lock automatically when you're away from it. Don't use an easily guessed password. Avoid things like your birthday, your name, and your phone number. For example, you type in your password 123456 or something along the lines like password. Or you may try 1234 as your password. And for this one, your Mac may contain access to your email, banking information, cloud storage, work accounts, and saved credentials. Your login password is one of the first barriers protecting all of that. And if your Mac supports Touch ID, as you can see here, it supports my Mac Touch ID. It gives you a convenient way to authenticate without constantly typing your password. So you need to use it. Just remember that your Mac's actual account password remains important, especially after certain security events or restarts. So basically, your Mac password is the most critical and the most important part in this video. Because your Mac password, it serves like a password for every information that is stored in your computer. For this one, if Touch ID is available on your computer, I want you to go ahead and use it as a convenience. And it serves like an encryption also, a way of encryption for your computer. Always remember that your Mac password is the key to every access of information on your Mac. And if your password has been compromised, I want you to change it immediately. Don't use passwords that can be easily guessed for you not to be able to have your information compromised, especially on your personal computer. So I want you not to enter these passwords, for example, QWERTY. This is a very easy one. Or your birthday. For example, your birthday is January 1, 2001. Easily, right? So that's the examples of the passwords that you don't need to use on your computer, because your password is the most and very important. function, or encryption and security of your Mac in every information that you have inside your computer. Next, let's make sure your Mac doesn't remain unlocked when you walk away. First, go to System Settings and proceed and find Lock Screen. Look for the settings related to requiring a password after the screensaver begins or after the display is turned off. So you see here, turn display off on battery when inactive for, and here you will have the options on how many minutes you want your display to turn off when your battery in is inactive or when your display is inactive. So here I've chosen 2 minutes when I'm away and to turn the display off on battery when inactive. Now here is the option where it says turn display off on power adapter when inactive. So I have chosen for 10 minutes. Since I am here at home, it's 10 minutes for me. So I want you to choose a relatively short period. For example, you might choose a few minutes depending on how you use your Mac. So I have here 2 minutes and 10 minutes for each option. If you're working in a public place, I would strongly recommend not leaving your Mac unlocked while you're away. Or you can choose for 1 minute here and here for 1 minute also for the fastest. Even if you're only stepping away for a minute, you can go ahead and turn off your computer. It's the best and safest option. Theft isn't always about someone grabbing the entire laptop. Someone could also access your Mac while you're away from the table. A good habit is simple. Before you leave your Mac, go ahead and lock it. You can use the Apple menu and choose lock screen here. Or use the appropriate keyboard shortcut and make it a habit until it becomes automatic. Your Mac security is also connected to your Apple account. So make sure your Apple account has a strong, unique password. And most importantly, make sure two-factor authentication is enabled. Two-factor authentication adds another layer of protection when someone attempts to sign into your account. Why does it matter? Because if someone gains access to your Apple account, they may potentially gain access to much more than your MacBook. Your photos, your iCloud data, your contacts, your other Apple devices, and potentially your Find My information. So don't treat your Apple account password as just another password. It's one of your most important digital credentials. Also review the devices associated with your Apple account from time to time. If you see a device you don't recognize, investigate it. So to check for the option here for the two-factor authentication, we go to System Settings and proceed on your Apple account and go to Sign In and Security. Click on two-factor authentication and check for the devices that are associated with your account. And that's how you check your two-factor authentication.